I was her, she was me. We were one, we were free. And if there's somebody calling me on, she's the one. And if there's somebody calling me on, she's the one. Hey, I'm Espen Kraft, thanks for watching. This is the Yamaha KX88 master keyboard from 1984 by Manny, hailed as the gold standard of Midi master keyboards. Today, we're checking it out. A bit of trivia at the start here. In the original brochure for the KX88, Yamaha calls this a remote keyboard, not a master Midi keyboard. Anyways, you have 88 weighted keys, a sort of mixture of synth and piano action with velocity and aftertouch. You have 2 rows of banks, bank A and bank B, with 16 code memories in each. This was actually meant for the DX line and the TX line of Yamaha synthesizers at the time. You have 4 programmable faders, switches, and this can output both controller changes, CCs, and Midi sysex. I'll get back to that later. Having one Midi out on a master keyboard today is pretty thin, but this was 1984. And you can hook up 2 sustain pedals and 2 foot controllers. All accessible from the left side of the KX88. And you have pitch bend wheel and a modulation wheel. Both can be reprogrammed to do other things if you want to. And you have an input for a breath controller. And then there are the keys. And by today's standard, you'd either hate these or love these keys. I love them. If you watch a music video from the 80s and you see a Midi master keyboard in that video, you can be sure it was a Yamaha KX88. Every professional musician used one in the 80s. You have single modes, dual modes, and split modes, and you also have programmable buttons to do things like octave shifts, etc. You can program these to do pretty much whatever you want. And the ability to call up different Midi banks from those row buttons, A and B, was really powerful in 1984. One really cool and interesting and unique thing I saw in the user manual for the KX88 is the mention of another manufacturer of synths, Roland. Yamaha uses Roland, the Roland Juno 106, to demonstrate how the KX88 can send out sysex controller data to change the filter cutoff. So here we have the Juno 106. Let's see if we can change that filter cutoff from the KX88 and the CS Fader 4 to the left there, using sysex data. And the KX88 has to be programmed in a hexadecimal number system. And I must use one of 2 universal modes that the KX88 has. So I choose that, and now I input the string of sysex data into the KX88. So first I set up a F0, that's the status byte. Then I set up the identification number 41, which is Roland. Every manufacturer has its own identification number. I set up a substatus and a parameter group number. And then I set up 05, which is the parameter number for the VCF cutoff of the Roland Juno 106. And then I set the F7, which is the end of exclusive. I end the string of sysex data with F7 there. Now I have to set up a controller assign so I can attach that string of sysex data to a physical controller or knob or fader. So I'm setting the CS4 fader to be able to control that sysex data which I've just programmed. And now I put the KX88 in play mode and see if that fader actually changes the filter cutoff. And what do you know? It works. And this is basically how you program a controller to send out sysex data to control parameters of a synth from whatever manufacturer you want. So I did it one more time on the CS3 fader to control the attack. So that was sysex data. That's the most difficult thing to program, really. You can also send out controller changes, CCs, from the KX88. That's a lot easier to control synths that can be controlled by using CCs only and not sysex data. For instance, this sequential 6-track that can accept CC messages. So here I'm just programming the KX88 to output CC's controller changes to the 6-track, in this case to use the fader CS1 to use as a modulation wheel. So this was how we did it in 1984. Well, if you've ever used a master keyboard, I'm sure you have your own favorites. Some prefer Rolands, some prefer Korgs, some prefer Yamahas. I must admit that the KX88 is perfect for my fingers. It gives me that a nice piano feel. It's not too heavy, but it's not too light either. So if I want to play a piano patch, a bass patch, this is perfect. The way the keys springs back to my fingers, they're really nice on my fingers. Some prefer a more hammer strike back type action, while others prefer another type of keys altogether. It's all down to personal preference and no shame in that. Of course, by today's standard, the feature set and the way you program different types of controllers and buttons, etc., are pretty arcane and cumbersome on the KX88. But I think the goodies, the keys themselves, more than weighs up for that. One MIDI out is, of course, not enough by today's standard again, but the keys, man, the keys are really and truly wonderful. And that's all that matters to me. If you want to see more videos, more in-depth videos, have perks, ask me questions, have my undivided attention, please consider signing up to my Patreon. I'll leave a link for you in the video description, or you can see the address here. As always, I'm Espen Kraft and I am the 80s. So until we see each other again, have a good one. Cheers.